You've been lied to, not by accident, not out of ignorance, but by design. You were taught that if you're kind enough, agreeable enough, accommodating enough, people will respect you. They'll value you. They'll treat you like you matter. And you believed it, because it felt moral, it felt safe, it felt like the right way to be human. So you smiled when they interrupted you. You nodded when they dismissed your idea. You showed up even when they canceled on you. Again. You swallowed your frustration, muted your boundaries, folded your needs into neat little corners so no one would feel uncomfortable. And what did you get in return? Crumbs. Silence. Invisibility. Maybe a pat on the head. You're so easy to work with. While someone else took credit for your labor, your insight, your sweat. You thought being liked was the currency of connection. Turns out, it's the tax you pay to stay powerless. The brutal truth no one wants to admit: likability is a trap, a velvet-lined cage, and the door isn't locked from the outside. You welded it shut yourself. Every time you laughed off disrespect to keep the peace. Every time you said yes when your soul screamed no. Every time you made yourself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. You weren't being polite. You were being predictable, and predictability is the death of reverence. Think about the last person who truly commanded your attention without raising their voice. Not the loudest in the room, not the funniest, not the most agreeable. The one who walked in, didn't scramble for approval, didn't perform for validation, didn't contort themselves to fit the mood. And yet, the air shifted. Conversations paused, postures straightened. People leaned in. Why? Because that person radiated something deeper than charm, something older than charisma, something colder, sharper, more magnetic. Sovereignty. The unshakable certainty that their presence was not a request for permission, but a declaration of worth. That's the dark power of respect, and it has nothing to do with being feared in the Hollywood sense. No raised fists, no threats, no manipulation. It's about consequence, about cost, about the quiet, non-negotiable understanding that crossing them comes with a price. Not because they're cruel, but because they're consistent. They don't explain their boundaries. They enforce them. They don't beg for space. They occupy it. And here's what no self-help guru will tell you. Respect isn't earned through achievement. It's claimed through refusal. Refusal to be interrupted. Refusal to be minimized. Refusal to trade your dignity for a smile that means nothing. 500 years ago, a man named Machiavelli watched courts collapse, kings kneel, and empires rise, not by popularity, but by perception of power. He didn't write for tyrants. He wrote for survivors, for those who understood that in a world where weakness is exploited, strength must be signaled, not shouted, but demonstrated. His words weren't about cruelty. They were about calibration, about knowing when to be the fox. Silent, strategic, seeing the trap before stepping into it, and when to be the lion. Still, immovable, radiating gravity that makes wolves hesitate. You don't need to become ruthless to command respect. You need to become rare. Predictable people are discounted. Available people are overlooked. Agreeable people are used. But the person who speaks less and means more, who moves with intention, not urgency, who gives their time like it's gold because it is, that person becomes a force of nature, not because they demand worship, but because they refuse waste. Let's dismantle the myth right now. Being respected doesn't mean being disliked. It means being chosen. Deliberately, consciously, by those who recognize value when they see it. The coworker who stops interrupting you isn't doing it because you yelled. She's doing it because you stopped responding to her emails until she addressed you by name. The friend who finally shows up on time isn't changed by your lecture. He's changed Because you left the restaurant after waiting 20 minutes. Without apology, without drama, just gone. The boss who suddenly acknowledges your contributions didn't have a moral awakening. He realized your resignation letter would cost him more than your silence ever did. This isn't manipulation, it's physics. Energy flows where respect is expected and evaporates where it's begged for. You've been conditioned to believe that setting boundaries is selfish, that saying no is rude, that prioritizing yourself is narcissistic. That's the programming of the powerless, the language of the expendable. Real power doesn't apologize for existing. It doesn't negotiate its worth. It doesn't perform gratitude for basic decency. And the moment you internalize that, the moment you stop measuring your value by how many people smile at you, everything shifts. Relationships deepen because they're no longer built on your performance, but on mutual recognition. Opportunities multiply because decision-makers seek those who won't flinch under pressure. Confidence isn't faked anymore. It's inherited, bone deep, because you've stopped outsourcing your worth to strangers' opinions. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming whole. Whole people don't fracture themselves to fit into others' expectations. They stand in their shape, edges and all, and let the right people find them. The wrong ones will call you arrogant. Good. Let them. Their discomfort is proof you're no longer serving their convenience. Machiavelli knew this. Men judge by the eye, not the hand. They see what you appear to be, not what you are. So appear unshakable, appear anchored, appear as though your peace is non-negotiable. Because it is. When you stop reacting to every provocation, every slight, every baited hook, you become unreadable. And unpredictability is the ultimate power. Not chaos, not mood swings, but the quiet refusal to be cataloged, predicted, or controlled. The person who sometimes says yes with generosity, and sometimes says no with finality, without explanation, becomes a mystery. And humans will move mountains to solve a mystery they can't crack. Stop chasing. Start choosing. Stop explaining. Start embodying. Stop begging for a seat at tables that don't value you. And build your own damn table. Carve it from oak. Set one chair, yours, and watch how quickly the right people pull up stools beside you. Not because you invited them, but because they sense the gravity. The dark power of respect isn't in domination. It's in discernment, knowing your worth, protecting your energy, walking away from what diminishes you, not with anger, but with indifference. That's the real flex, not shouting, "Respect me," but whispering, "I already do," and letting the world adjust accordingly. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be respected by those who matter, and those who don't. Let them whisper, let them wonder, let them realize too late that the person they underestimated became the standard they couldn't reach. Your time isn't coming. It's here. Claim it. You think respect is something you earn by being impressive. Promotions, accolades, viral moments, designer labels, corner offices. You hustle for it, perform for it, exhaust yourself trying to prove you're worthy of basic human dignity, and still, someone talks over you in meetings. Still, your texts go unanswered for days. Still, your friends treat your time like it's disposable. Why? Because admiration and respect are not the same currency. Admiration is applause, loud, fleeting, conditional on your next achievement. Respect is silence, deep, enduring, rooted in the unspoken understanding that crossing you has consequences. You can be the most talented person in the room and still get walked over if you've trained people that disrespect costs them nothing. Talent gets attention. Boundaries command reverence. Think of the last person who made you pause before speaking. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. Maybe it was a teacher whose gaze could quiet a riot, a mentor who listened more than they spoke. Yet when they did, the room leaned in. A stranger on a train who radiated such calm authority that even the loudmouth businessman lowered his voice. What did they have in common? Not titles, not trophies, not perfect hair or flawless grammar. They had thresholds, invisible lines drawn in psychic ink that everyone sensed, and no one dared cross. Not because they threatened violence, not because they yelled, but because they moved through the world as though their peace was sacred, and anyone who disturbed it would find themselves suddenly, quietly, irrelevant. That's the dark power Machiavelli whispered about. Control through consequence, not coercion. He didn't say, be cruel. He said, be consistent. When you let someone interrupt you and then keep talking, you teach them interruption works. When you answer a 3 a.m. text from a flake and reschedule your life around their whims, you teach them your time is negotiable. When you laugh off a backhanded compliment to avoid making things awkward, you teach them your dignity is optional. Every unchallenged slight is a lesson in how to treat you. And you've been the most patient teacher they've ever had. It's time to fail them. Not with rage, not with lectures, with removal. Remove your attention, remove your energy, remove your presence. Not as punishment, as calibration. The moment you stop rewarding disrespect, the ecosystem around you shifts. People don't change because you explain why they should. They change because the cost of staying the same becomes higher than the effort of evolving. Your coworker doesn't need a TED Talk on active listening. She needs to realize her ideas get ignored in meetings where she constantly talks over others. Your best friend doesn't need a therapy session on reliability. He needs to sit alone at that restaurant, staring at cold breadsticks, realizing for the first time what it feels like to be stood up. Your boss doesn't need your resume update. He needs to see your LinkedIn notification that you've accepted a competitor's offer. This isn't gamesmanship, it's gravity, Newton's third law for human dynamics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Unless you remove yourself from the equation, then the action collapses under its own weight. Stop being the variable in everyone else's experiment. Become the constant, the immovable object, the person who doesn't flinch when plans change. Because your inner world remains anchored regardless of external chaos. That's where true power lives. Not in controlling others, but in mastering your own response. Most people are desperate to be understood, to be seen, to be validated, so they over-explain, over-share, over-apologize. They turn conversations into confessional booths, hoping if they reveal enough vulnerability, someone will finally grant them permission to exist without apology. Stop begging for witnesses to your pain. Start curating audiences for your presence. The powerful don't explain why they're leaving a party early. They don't justify saying no to extra work. They don't defend taking a mental health day. They simply act and let their actions echo louder than any justification ever could. Silence isn't empty, it's full of meaning. When you stop filling every pause with nervous chatter, people lean in to hear what you'll say next. When you stop defending your boundaries, people learn to navigate around them. Carefully, respectfully. When you stop reacting to provocations, provocateurs lose interest, because drama only thrives with participation. Machiavelli knew this. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. Be both. Be the fox when you need to see the trap, reading rooms, sensing agendas, choosing when to engage. Be the lion when you need to stand ground, silent, still, radiating an energy that says, cross me and find yourself alone. You don't need to roar, just exist with unwavering certainty. The addiction to approval runs deeper than you think. It's not just wanting to be liked. It's fearing irrelevance. The terror that if you stop performing, people will forget you exist. So you post, you comment, you show up, you agree, you contort, you become a hall of mirrors, reflecting back whatever version of you each person wants to see. And slowly, you forget what your original face looked like. Breaking this addiction isn't about becoming arrogant. It's about becoming authentic. Authenticity isn't pretty. It's not always polite. It's saying, "I'm not available," without listing your schedule. It's leaving a gathering when your energy dips, without announcing it. It's disagreeing with a crowd favorite, calmly, firmly, without needing to convert them. Real confidence isn't the absence of doubt. It's the presence of self-trust, knowing that even if everyone walks away, you'll still be standing, intact, whole. And here's the secret they don't tell you. The people who matter won't walk away. They'll lean closer, because authenticity is magnetic, not the curated Instagram kind. The raw, unvarnished, "this is me, take it or leave it" kind. The colleague who respects your no will value your yes more. The friend who accepts your boundaries will trust your loyalty deeper. The partner who sees you prioritize yourself will feel safer doing the same. Scarcity creates value, not just in economics, but in human connection. When you're always available, you become background noise. When your attention is rationed, it becomes a gift. When your time is guarded, it becomes sacred. Don't confuse availability with generosity. True generosity is intentional, given from overflow, not obligation. The person who says no to 10 requests so they can say hell yes to one meaningful project. That's not selfish, that's stewardship. Machiavelli warned, "He who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner affects his ruin than his preservation." Stop living in the hypothetical. If I just do more, they'll finally see my worth. Start living in the actual, I see my worth. Act accordingly, or exit stage left. The most respected people aren't the busiest. They're the most intentional. They don't fill calendars. They curate experiences. They don't chase opportunities. They attract them by becoming magnets for quality. How? By mastering the art of strategic distance. Not isolation, not coldness. Selectivity. Choosing when to engage, when to observe, when to withdraw. Not from fear, but from clarity. The CEO who doesn't respond to emails after 6 p.m. isn't lazy. She's signaling that rest is non-negotiable. The artist who disappears for months between projects isn't flaky. He's protecting the creative well. The parent who locks the bathroom door for 10 minutes of silence isn't selfish. She's refilling her cup so she can pour into others without resentment. Distance isn't rejection, it's recalibration. And the beautiful paradox, the less you chase connection, the deeper it becomes. Because now it's built on mutual choice, not your desperation. The relationships that survive your transformation are the ones worth keeping. The ones that shatter, thank them for revealing their fragility. You weren't losing friends. You were shedding costumes. Now the real work begins. Not changing others, but upgrading your operating system. From how can I make them like me, to do they deserve access to me? From what will they think, to what do I know? From please validate me, to I am already whole. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment, and alignment is the birthplace of true power. You've spent years believing respect is a reward, something granted after you've jumped through enough hoops, smiled through enough slights, swallowed enough pride. You thought if you just worked harder, gave more, stayed later, agreed faster, eventually they'd see your value. They'd stop interrupting. They'd return your calls. They'd acknowledge your ideas. But here's the truth that stings like salt in a wound. Respect isn't given. It's taken, not by force, not by shouting, not by demanding it with trembling hands and pleading eyes. Taken by refusal. Refusal to accept less than your worth. Refusal to apologize for existing fully. Refusal to contort yourself into shapes that please people who wouldn't move a finger to protect your peace. The most respected people you know, they didn't earn it by being universally liked. They claimed it by being unapologetically themselves, even when it made others uncomfortable, even when it cost them friendships, even when it meant walking away from tables where their presence was tolerated but never treasured. Machiavelli didn't write for the crowd pleasers. He wrote for the sovereign souls, those who understood that in a world addicted to performance, authenticity is the ultimate power move. You don't need to be feared to be respected. You need to be unfazed, unmoved, unshakable in the knowledge that your worth isn't up for debate. Not by strangers, not by friends, not even by your own doubting mind. Think of the last time someone truly commanded your respect without saying a word. Maybe it was the barista who calmly refused a rude customer's unreasonable request. No anger, no apology, just a quiet, "I can't do that." Maybe it was the colleague who sat silently through a chaotic meeting, then spoke one sentence that cut through the noise and redirected the entire conversation. Maybe it was the stranger on the bus who didn't flinch when someone tried to provoke them, just met their gaze with calm indifference until the aggressor looked away, embarrassed. What did they all have in common? They didn't explain themselves. They didn't justify their stance. They didn't beg for understanding. They simply existed in their truth, and the world adjusted around them. That's the dark power of respect. It doesn't ask permission. It assumes its place, and everyone else scrambles to accommodate it. You've been taught that setting boundaries is aggressive, that saying no is selfish, that prioritizing your peace is narcissistic. That's the programming of the powerless, designed to keep you small, available, and endlessly accommodating. Real power doesn't negotiate its right to exist. It doesn't perform gratitude for basic decency. It doesn't shrink to make others feel bigger. It expands, quietly, inevitably, until the space around it reshapes to honor its presence. Stop confusing kindness with compliance. You can be kind and still say no. You can be compassionate and still enforce consequences. You can be generous and still guard your energy like the finite, precious resource it is. The person who gives everything to everyone ends up with nothing left, not even self-respect. But the person who gives strategically, who chooses when, where, and to whom they extend themselves, that person becomes a wellspring, deep, replenishing, magnetic. People don't leave them, they orbit them, because scarcity creates reverence. When your attention is rationed, it becomes a gift. When your time is guarded, it becomes sacred. When your presence is selective, it becomes an event. Don't mistake availability for generosity. True generosity flows from overflow, not obligation. The artist who disappears for months to create, that's not flakiness, that's stewardship of genius. The parent who locks the bathroom door for 10 minutes of silence, that's not selfishness, that's survival. The leader who doesn't answer emails after 6 p.m., that's not laziness, that's modeling sustainable success. Machiavelli knew this. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. They see what you appear to be, not what you are. So appear anchored, appear immovable, appear as though your inner peace is non-negotiable. Because it is. When you stop reacting to every provocation, every slight, every baited hook, you become unreadable. And unpredictability is the ultimate power. Not chaos, not mood swings, but the quiet refusal to be catalogued, predicted, or controlled. The person who sometimes says yes with wild generosity, and sometimes says no with gentle finality, without explanation, becomes a mystery, and humans will move mountains to solve a mystery they can't crack. Stop chasing, start choosing. Stop explaining, start embodying. Stop begging for a seat at tables that don't value you. And build your own damn table. Carve it from oak, set one chair, yours, and watch how quickly the right people pull up stools beside you, not because you invited them, but because they sensed the gravity. The dark power of respect isn't in domination, it's in discernment, knowing your worth, protecting your energy, walking away from what diminishes you, not with anger, but with indifference. That's the real flex, not shouting, "Respect me," but whispering, "I already do," and letting the world adjust accordingly. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be respected by those who matter. And those who don't, let them whisper, let them wonder, let them realize too late that the person they underestimated became the standard they couldn't reach. Your time isn't coming. It's here. Claim it. Most people live their lives backwards, begging for scraps of approval from people who wouldn't cross the street to help them, while ignoring the quiet reverence of those who see their true worth. They chase validation from the loud, the flashy, the temporarily impressive, while the steady, the deep, the truly powerful watch from the sidelines, waiting for them to tire of the performance. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to command it. You need to be the most consistent, the one who doesn't flinch when plans change, the one who doesn't scramble when opinions shift, the one who doesn't fracture themselves to fit into others' expectations. Whole people don't apologize for their edges, they let the right people find them, and let the wrong ones walk away. The addiction to approval is a slow poison, disguised as connection, sold as love, marketed as belonging. It tells you that if you just contort yourself a little more, smile a little wider, agree a little faster, you'll finally be safe, wanted, valued. But safety isn't found in performance. It's found in sovereignty, in the unshakable knowledge that you are enough, exactly as you are, without explanation, without apology, without alteration. Breaking this addiction isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming whole. Whole people don't fracture themselves to fit into others' expectations. They stand in their shape, edges and all, and let the right people find them. The wrong ones will call you arrogant. Good. Let them. Their discomfort is proof you're no longer serving their convenience. Machiavelli knew this. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The moment you stop performing for others' approval, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. What happens when you break free from the approval trap? First, people don't know how to manipulate you anymore. They can't push your buttons because you've disconnected the buttons from your actions. They can't guilt you, shame you, or pressure you because those tactics only work on people who need validation. Second, your decision-making becomes crystal clear. Instead of asking, "What will make others happy?" you start asking, "What's best for me?" Instead of trying to please everyone, you focus on pleasing the one person whose opinion actually matters: yourself. Third, your relationships improve dramatically. Not all of them. Some people will hate that they can't control you anymore, and they'll disappear from your life. Good. The relationships that survive are the real ones, based on mutual respect instead of your desperation for approval. This is the psychology shift that changes everything. From "I hope they like me" to "I don't care if they like me." From "What do they think?" to "What do I think?" From "I need their approval" to "They need to earn my respect." The most powerful people aren't the busiest. They're the most intentional. They don't fill calendars. They curate experiences. They don't chase opportunities. They attract them by becoming magnets for quality. How? By mastering the art of strategic distance, not isolation, not coldness. Selectivity. Choosing when to engage, when to observe, when to withdraw. Not from fear, but from clarity.